It's the first day of practice with your new team, and excited nerves have replaced the blood flowing through your 13-year-old body as you stand in the outfield waiting for a ball to fall into the pocket of your glove. The nerves you experience as you step up to bat in front of new people are natural, but since everyone at tryouts had nothing but amazing things to say about the coach, you're confused as to why your nerves are at an all-time high. It's just fielding and hitting. You could do this in your sleep. You go through the first practice, and it's all right, but the coach's aggressive, backhanded compliments towards the other girls' skills as they go through the drills takes you back. What was wrong with what they were doing? You're used to having passionate and hard coaches who will push you to your best ability, but her actions didn't seem like passion. They seemed like anger. As the days of practice and occasional tournaments over the weekend turn into weeks and then months, you start to grow closer with the girls on your team. This, along with your love for the game, helps make up for the feeling of dread and anxiety you get before going to practices. Anxiety for the unveiling of your coach's unknown emotion of the day and the ridiculing comments that would be made about your performance. As softball tournaments take hold of your summer, your coach's attitude starts to take hold of your love for the game. Do you even want to play anymore? Parents frequently respond to finding out their kid doesn't want to play a sport anymore with, maybe if you'd practiced more, you would have enjoyed it, or just hold out for a few more months and then see how you feel. In reality, the kid doesn't want a few more months because they've been feeling this way for months. Now, maybe you've been lucky enough to have a coach who changed not only your performance, but also increased your love of the game. But what about the coaches who have ruined the love of the game for kids? We need to stop idolizing coaches purely because they bring success to a team and instead start idolizing them for their character, so kids can continue to love the game. By a show of hands, how many of you have played a sport before? All right, so a decent amount, okay. And now, how many of you have had to learn or improve on a new or specific skill for the sport you were or are playing? Or maybe if you don't play a sport, perhaps it was for the school, work, or theater project you're involved in? All right, okay. So about everyone in the room can relate in some way. So even if you don't play a sport, you're all familiar with the idea of learning or strengthening a new skill. Awesome, great. We're already off to a really good start. Now, I want you to remember your emotions while learning this new skill. Was there frustration because you didn't get the skill right the first time? Hopefulness because you knew you could eventually do the skill? Excitement because you were just so eager to learn something new? Or was it fear? You don't want your coach or boss to yell at you for an imperfect attempt at something completely new to you. An article by Mike Edgar from Sports Psychology Today claims when players are singled out and belittled by their coaches, not only do their confidence levels fall, but they also begin to crave praise rather than a good performance. So, if the emotion was fear, you, like myself and many others who play sports, may have experienced a bully coach. For clarification, a bully coach is not to be confused with a coach who pushes you to be your best and gives you constructive criticism. According to research done by the Korn Ferry Institute, which is an innovation center focused on illuminating key trends and drivers of human performance, most people hold coaching and developing others as one of the top 3 most important leadership positions. So if developing others is held to such a high standard, why do we just expect players to endure this treatment of bully coaching? As an athlete, I am my biggest critic, and 9 times out of 10, if I make a mistake, I already know what I did wrong and will work to fix my error in the next rep. Athletes are the first to get down on themselves when they make mistakes, which is why for peak development of their skills, their love of the game, and their character, coaches need to be the ones who uplift and become their supporters. For a good coach never just coaches. They mold, inspire, create, and influence the player to become a better person on and off the field. To athletes, coaches become one of the most present people in their lives, and because of this, there are a lot of effects, both good and bad, that they can have on the player, specifically mentally. I can still remember messages and lessons my coach has taught me completely unrelated to my sport, such as how there's no such thing as perfect, just almost perfect, and to stop saying sorry after every little thing you do wrong. But what made these messages and lessons so memorable that 6 years later I would still remember them? It was the way they were delivered. Linda Flanagan, in her article for The Atlantic, backs this idea by explaining when a coach is giving a message to a player, if the message carries emotions such as anger, sadness, or even excitement, the player will pay more attention to its delivery rather than the actual message. The Washington Post also did a study and published an article about why 70% of kids decide to stop playing competitive travel sports by the age of 13. As someone who stopped playing competitive softball around 15 years old, I was interested in two of the things that they mentioned because they related to a few of the thoughts that I had myself before quitting. The first was how our culture no longer supports older kids playing for the fun of it. And the second was the idea that most kids leave sports because no one has given them a reason to stay. If our culture in athletics isn't supporting kids playing for fun and instead is so focused on winning or else you're not good, then why would coaches go completely against the sports culture and chance their reputation being ruined? How many coaches are there who truly care more about developing their players than their reputation and winning streak? In an article by Julie Davis Colin on the power of positive coaching, she says we do more for those who appreciate us and invest in us simply because we feel better about it. Before I even moved to Florida, I no longer wanted to invest my time into practicing because I didn't feel any investment coming back. And if I didn't feel any investment coming back when I was putting in the work, how would that change if I wasn't putting in the work? With my confidence and my abilities already low from not feeling trusted by my coaches back in New Hampshire, I moved to Florida where my new coach made me feel like I was in a toxic relationship with the way she went back and forth between making me love and hate her. It was confusing when I would be on the verge of not being able to breathe because of my asthma, and she would tell me to stop being a baby and that I obviously needed the running, only to act like my best friend and say that we should go to lunch a few minutes later. Or when she would belittle my skills by saying, if you can't hit a target, then you should just quit, while it was pouring rain and the ball was wet. This wasn't the game of softball 8-year-old me used to love. Doing anything remotely related to softball felt like a chore, and I knew deep down that I couldn't sacrifice my mental health trying to convince myself I still loved a game I had lost love for a long time ago. I no longer associated the sport of softball with fun practices, a form of socialization, and a sport that made me happy. I now associated the game with belittlement, fear before going to practices, and something I no longer wanted to put time into. One of the hard things about falling out of love with a sport is that it takes away a player's identity. You're stuck between ignore them and just push through, or trying to keep your identity by saying, I play X sport. I have no idea where I'd be in my softball career today if I had felt more supported by my coaches, and it's something I think about all the time. Would my love for the sport have come back? Would I have played in high school? Would I be in the commitment process like 8-year-old me had dreamed of? For me, my competitive softball journey has ended. But for others, their journeys and their sports are just beginning. Let's be the ones who hold coaches accountable for their actions so we can guide them to be better and create the change that gives other young athletes the ability to continue loving their game. Thank you.